Here we are with part 2 of the pole building project. The next thing that happened is they arrived to install the garage door. That garage door is 13 feet high and 16 feet wide. It is a low clearance door, so it's installed relatively tight to the rafters up above. But it works out really nice. And then the stone was leveled out. I had to supply the stone. You can see they brought the stone up to the bottom of those boards, because those boards are used as the frame for the concrete. By the way, that stone that was used was actually a 2B clean stone. But it was kind of entertaining that when the concrete arrived, that door is high enough that, they could basically drive that truck right inside, which made it really convenient for the whole pouring operation. Well, the concrete has been poured. Apparently it took 29 yards of concrete. It's a 6-inch slab, very high strength, fiberglass reinforced. It's thick enough, 6 inches thick. It's thick enough that if I wanted to put a lift in there, it would be more than enough to hold that. So, they got it poured, and now they're waiting for it to set up enough to get on there and start to do the finishing. It's also worth noting here that the brick fascia work had begun at this point, and you could see that he'd put a base coat of concrete or whatever that is that he used then to actually mortar the brick fascia up against it. So that was going on at the same time. The other thing notable here is I was able to move things into the building. This was probably a week or so after the concrete was poured, but this was kind of an important milestone because being able to empty out the storage shed, then I could get on with actually tearing it down. This was been here for 20 years and it was pretty threadbare. So I ripped off the shingles, and then we started cutting up the roof and tearing it apart with a Sawzall. Eventually had it down in sections, and then it became a challenge as to how to get rid of it. So final solution was to bring in a dumpster and to start packing all that crap into the dumpster. So I got it down to where it was, just those 4x4 framing members, and sawed those up into bits and pieces, and pretty much got it all thrown in the dumpster. And for good measure, I just threw in a few more goodies that were laying around I wanted to get rid of. But there you go, it's ready to depart. Well, I thought I'd introduce my next project here related to the new building that went in. So basically the way this was designed, we've got a nice new covering here over the section of the building near the entry door, and it's right next to the pool, as you can see. So this is going to be a new area for us to tie into the pool area, give us a nice covered seating area right along the pool's edge. And we're going to do this with pavers. The pavers color-wise will match the wall you see, or the walls you see there. The color ought to be reasonably consistent with the way the concrete was dyed. And level-wise, the inside of the building, the concrete in the inside of the building was set to be at the level of the pool deck. So the pavers ought to go pretty much straight across between the door, the side of the building, and the pool deck. Now, I've never done this before, so this is my first time, and I'm pretty much doing it myself. I do have the pavers were actually delivered this morning, so I do have the pavers now. I don't have everything I need, but I am currently spreading stone to be my base. I'm using the same stone they used under the concrete slab in the building. So this is they call it a 2B clean. It matches the stone that's gooshing out from where they poured it under the building. And I think it's a good as stone as any for a base. I think it'll allow drainage underneath. which can be an advantage. Well, apparently I got lazy taking videos at some point, but you can see at this point the actual brick fascia is complete on the building. Pretty happy with the way that looks. Matches the rest of the property very nicely. So we're working on our pavers at this point. I know I told you that we brought that 2B clean stone up to a certain level, but as I remember now, I realized I was going to have to change that. So I took 2 inches off of that and made room for 2 inches of 2A modified that was laid on top of some landscape material to prevent, run through of those smaller stones or sand through that barrier. So the 2A was put down because it packs really nicely and tight, and then the sand can lay right on top of that 2A modified. So this shows me getting started off the corner of the building. And another thing worth pointing out here is I had blocked out a little section where I knew there would be a future fence post going in right there at the corner. So I didn't want anything, filling that hole too much. But this shows the simple operation of laying out the sand, getting it nice and level by using 3/4 inch PVC pipes as a guide, and then you can kind of squeegee, across that. So you just do a section at a time, continuing to build, and eventually, you've got it laid out the way you want. I should also mention I used a plate compactor to compact the 2B clean stone, and then to compact the 2A stone. I also used the plate compactor to run over all of the pavers once I had all the pavers in place, because that really levels them out and makes that sand underneath it, fill in nicely. As far as cutting the stones go, I started out caveman mode, just using a stone chisel and a mallet. A little bit of liquid lubrication for the mason helped make that go a little easier. But eventually, when it came to the kind of the curved stones, I did rent a saw, which made that a lot easier. Now, in these photos, you're looking at the pavers before I had run the plate compactor over them and put the sand over top. I think at this point on this picture, where the fence is jury-rigged back together temporarily, I had run the plate compactor, and I'd actually put the sand down and swept it into the cracks. With the pavers in place, I turned my attention to finishing off this unfinished lumber around the lean-to. So the first thing I did is I wanted to dress up the top of each post. You can see the one on the left is unfinished, the one on the right, I added a little bit to it before, moving on to paint. Here we are with it painted. You notice the posts match the trim color, which happens to match the house trim color. Even the inner boards have been painted to dress it up. So I think it worked out pretty good. Stepping back a bit, it blends in nicely with the fence. You can see how the brick fascia matches with the, with the pavers. This past spring, we finally got around to replacing the one section of fence with a privacy fence. It's a 6 foot high. It's actually a vinyl fence. Good quality one. So I actually installed it myself. Here I'm getting started, and now it shows it in a more finished state, and I think it ties in really nicely. Added some topsoil to fill in the low area, get some grass planted, and we're pretty happy with the way that privacy fence kind of pulled things together for us. There are 2 gates. There's a 5 foot gate up by the house, and then there's a 3 foot gate down by the building. Well, that brings us to the end. Here's a recent photo. It kind of shows how it blends in with the driveway and up towards the house. If you like the video, please give us a like and subscribe if you haven't. Really appreciate it. Bye now.